Will Matip make it? Can Jota jump into the starting 11? There's a new cheap defender we all need to be picking, and yes, he's a Wolves player. And which game is this week's clean sheet banker? This is the fantasy football cheat sheet where we give you up-to-date injury news, predicted lineups, who to transfer in, and loads more. And all from official sources. And it's on a Thursday now. Lovely stuff. What is this week's headline news? Well, it's got to be Danny Ings. He'll be missing for 4 to 6 weeks with a serious back injury after carrying Southampton for the past year. No, obviously that's not true, but sadly Ings has had to have surgery on his knee. His likely long-term replacement will be Shane Long. Ooh. Can Southampton cope without their main boy? I can't really see it myself, to be honest. To the treatment room! What's the biggest injury news this week then as we head into game week 8? If you missed it on Tuesday, Gabby Jesus made a goal-scoring return off the bench for City in the Champions League. With the Brazilians still not at peak match fitness though, it's still more likely Ferran Torres will continue up top, especially after bagging 3 goals in 5 games. Torres is a midfielder in fantasy terms, by the way. And City should have Aguero back after the international break too. International break? Are you joking?
Fuchs.
Sake. Christian Pulisic pulled up in last week's warm-up, but Lamps has put all of us who have him at rest. Yeah, I've got him in my team as well, so I was as annoyed as you were. Lamps has said it's a minor issue and is already back in training. Leeds were brought back down to earth last week, getting absolutely tonked, and their bad luck continues with Rodrigo now out. But don't let this deter you from picking Leeds players. They're away to Palace this weekend and have already won 2 of their 3 games on the road. And Palace looked pretty dreadful against Wolves last week, let me tell you. Liverpool have played both Reece Williams and Nate Phillips in the absence of Van Dijk and Matip these last 2 games. But as well as those 2 have played, Joel Matip has been pictured training this week and Naby Keita has too. And we stay in Merseyside for our final bit of injury news. James Rodriguez is expected to return for Everton's 12:30 Saturday kickoff against Man United. If you watched last week's show, you would have known James was missing with a testicle issue. Everton's record is not great against United though, with just 1 win in the last 11 games. But if we're looking for positives, Ollie has never beaten Everton and the main man Rashford hasn't scored in all 7 of his starts against the Toffees. A sticky toffee fixture for Marcus, one could say. Don't forget to stick around towards the end of the show for our predicted lineups section. All 20 predicted 11s in one place. Now we've got a brand new, straight out of the cellophane wrapping section for you this week. We're picking apart 3 important fixtures in fantasy football terms and looking into the numbers behind them, recent form, and players to pick and players to avoid. Let's get into it. First up, the undoubted biggest game of the weekend, City v Liverpool. For starters, let's not read into their most recent meeting. Yeah, I know City won 4-0, but Liverpool had the title wrapped up and they were on holiday already. Although Liverpool have only won once in the past 5 meetings between the sides. Klopp v Pep is always a tasty one. The German leads their career head-to-head record 9 wins to Pep's 8. Will Diogo Jota start? His hat-trick against Atalanta makes it pretty hard for him not to. But how can Klopp leave out his boy Firmino? As mad as it sounds, we think Jota will probably start from the bench. Mo Salah has 4 goals in the past 8 meetings between the sides in the Premier League and Champions League, and he looked pretty lively during the week too. Conversely, Raheem Sterling has only scored once against his old side in 9 appearances, and he's only scored once in his last 5 games this season, perhaps one to steer clear of. One thing we can expect is goals. Liverpool have only kept 1 clean sheet this season and 1 clean sheet in the past 7 Premier League games against City. Although this makes Trent and Robbo less appealing picks, I'm sure they'll be still doing damage going forwards. Next up, Chelsea v Sheffield United, a clean sheet banker. I know saying that might jinx things, but it really is. Edouard Mendy has yet to concede a goal and they're coming up against the least potent side in the league. Wildest lads have only scored 3 goals in their 7 games this season and they've lost 6 of their 7 games, keeping 0 clean sheets along the way. Our final highlighted fixture has to be West Brom v Spurs. This one has huge captain potential. This is the Premier League's best attack versus the Premier League's worst defence. Son and Kane have 14 goals and 10 assists between them. Just get them both in, do it, you won't regret it. Kane, by the way, has 7 in 7 versus West Brom. Probably favour him if you're stuck on who's the captain. Or just flip a coin. And you know what they say, if you haven't got anything nice to say about West Brom, don't say anything at all. For this week's Naughty Step, we've got a guest sponsor, Richard Dunn, a man who has the equal most red cards in the Premier League and is our guest on this Friday's Dream Team Coach Show. Make sure you're subscribed so you get a notification as soon as that video is released. It's a pretty busy step these days though, isn't it? The names to my left are of course suspended. The main bit of news though is that the two Frenchmen, Anthony Martial and Luca Dean, I think that's how you pronounce it, are both back from their respective bans. Martial though has actually gone without a goal in his last 5 Premier League starts, so pick him at your peril. Okay, which 3 players are we recommending to get in this week? I'm not bragging, but 2 of our picks scored last week, so, let's have more of the same this week. Straight in with Callum Wilson. Newcastle are up against an Ingsless Southampton this weekend in the fixture that has been really kind to the Magpies recently. Newcastle have won 4 of the last 5 games between the sides, which has included 3 clean sheets. Wilson's brace got Newcastle all 3 points against Everton in game week 7, and he likes it against Southampton too. 3 games played against them, 3 goals. Rayan Ait-Nouri. Remember the name? I can't really remember it now. The French under-21 international bagged a beautiful goal on his Wolves debut last week. They call this one a Jason punching above his weight in terms of his fantasy football price. Wolves have the best defensive record in the league with 3 clean sheets in their last 4 games. But it was offensively that Ait-Nouri shone, providing Wolves with much needed width. And actually his performance allowed Nelson Semedo to thrive on the right too. Both Wolves-Leicester games finished 0-0 last year, and we're expecting another low-scoring affair, especially with both teams playing notoriously deep defensive lines. But let's hope we don't get done over by VAR again. I've not forgotten that Bollian ball, by the way. Adama Traore as well. No starts for Wolves in the last 4 games and no goals this season. Stay well away. And finally, we've got an unconventional pick for you. It's Chris Wood. All right, I know Burnley haven't looked great, but Sean Dyche's teams don't go down without a fight. And their next 2 games are pretty tasty, Brighton and Crystal Palace. The Kiwi has 3 in his last 3 against Brighton and 8 in 13 against them in total. Pretty decent numbers. And Burnley have only lost once to Brighton in their last 9 games. So look, Burnley not looking great, but this could be the week they turn it around. So you're up to speed with who's available. Let's get some predicted lineups coming your way. My personal favourite part of the show, I'll tell you that now. Before I give them to you though, I must apologise for last week. Some eagle-eyed viewers noticed we made a cock-up on our West Brom predicted lineup graph. Although not intended, who's picking Albion players out there? Come on. If you are, give your head a wobble. You didn't need to see it anyway, did you? Right, that's all from us. Just before I leave you, I've got to remind you about our Dream Team Fantasy Football game. We've got a new and exciting subscription service for you this year called Dream Team Coach. It offers projected scores, fixture difficulty rating, projected price changes, and loads more if you're looking for that extra detail when picking your team. I know I say it every week, but genuinely it's a very good part of the app and it's really, really helpful. It's available really easily within the app and there's a link in the description below. Let us know what you thought of the show in the comments. Tell all your mates about us. We're working hard every week to give you the most informative video on the internet for fantasy football. And let us know what your teams are going to look like. Have you got any obscure picks? How's your season going so far? Okay, that's all from me. Good luck this weekend. Knackered, by the way.